Only on KOLD News 13 tonight, we are getting a look at explosive new video of a controversial arrest involving a Pima County Sheriff's deputy and a 15-year-old who has no legs or arms.
What?
And a 15-year-old who has no legs or arms.
That does not make sense.
And a 15-year-old who has no legs or arms.
What the fuck?
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Maries.
And I'm Brooke Wagner. This video shows the deputy wrestling the teen to the floor. We do want to warn you the video you're about to see could be disturbing to watch.
KOLD News 13's Bud Foster joining us live at the Sheriff's Office along Vincent Highway with more. Bud.
Well, Dan, I showed that video to the Pima County Sheriff's Department just a little while ago. They had not seen the video before, and once they watched it, they did begin an internal investigation. Now, this incident happened a couple of months ago, but that video is just now coming to light. This incident happened a couple of months ago, but that video is just now coming to light. This incident happened a couple of months ago, but that video is just now coming to light. We were able to get our hands on it today, and as you said, it's going to be rather explosive.
And then they have an exchange, and he gets in his face.
And he curses at him.
You consider that egregious?
Yes, absolutely. Imagine you're this boy with no limbs who just got tackled by this large man with a badge and gun. Imagine you're this boy with no limbs who just got tackled by this large man with a badge and gun. Imagine you're this boy with no limbs who just got tackled by this large man with a badge and gun. And this man is now screaming in your face, and he's now threatening your friend who has the temerity to record this whole incident. Absolutely, that's egregious.
The 8-minute video begins with a deputy on top of the 15-year-old boy, wrestling him to the floor with shouting and swearing. Later, it also shows that same deputy arrests the 16-year-old boy who shot most of the video.
He's eating the bowl of cereal. He puts the bowl of cereal down. He puts his hand behind his back, and now the deputy's going to slam his head into the wall.
And he's completely restrained at this point and is not trying to resist arrest. And he's completely restrained at this point and is not trying to resist arrest. And he's completely restrained at this point and is not trying to resist arrest.
It doesn't look like he's doing anything.
Just for good measure, let's slam his head into the wall. Just for good measure, let's slam his head into the wall. Just for good measure, let's slam his head into the wall.
We watched the video with the public defender, Joel Feynman, and with his chief assistant, Megan Page, in their office.
I would be horrified if an officer treated my children this way, and these kids are already in the traumatic situation of being in DCS custody, and they're not even in a stable home environment. So I think it's absolutely horrific. I would be horrified if an officer treated my children this way, and these kids are already in the traumatic situation of being in DCS custody. I would be horrified if an officer treated my children this way.
We showed the video to the Pima County Sheriff's Department Internal Affairs late this afternoon, which would not allow us to tape that. It was the first time the department had seen the video. It was not aware that it even existed, and as would be expected, they were non-committal.
It's difficult to really predict, but obviously there are a number of outcomes that could occur following an internal affairs investigation.
Meantime, the public defender's office says it's rare that videos such as this make daylight. Usually they get buried, so when one does see sunshine, it's a rare teaching moment.
Men with badges and guns should not be acting this way, and that men and women who do act this way should not have badges and guns.
Now, those two teenagers were arrested. They were taken to juvenile jail and booked for disorderly conduct. That case right now is being prosecuted by the Pima County Attorney's Office. Now, I'm going to talk to one of those young boys tomorrow. They're in school, so we have to sort of work around that. And the Pima County Sheriff's Office told us late this afternoon that that internal investigation would probably take a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks.
Headline: Houston prosecutor fired after asking about crime victims' immigration status. Now, this article is talking about an incident in Houston. It says a Houston prosecutor was fired Friday. Didn't say disciplinary action, didn't say investigated, didn't say suspended. He was fired. A Houston, not some backwater rural area, a Houston prosecutor was fired Friday after he allegedly refused to bring charges against a man accused of attempted sexual assault because he believed the victim was living in the United States illegally. So you had a prosecutor in Houston, Texas, who refused to bring charges. You had a prosecutor who was saying that we don't have to respect the human rights of an illegal alien. Meanwhile, this is the same Texas court system that for hundreds of years has refused to acknowledge, well, at least the last 100 years, has refused to acknowledge the basic human rights of Black American citizens. And you have this white woman, Kim Ogg. Harris County District Attorney Kim Ogg fired John Denholm after he had been reassigned to a different part of the office pending an investigation of the October 31st incident. People, October 31st to today, that was 10 days. Did you get that? 10 days. It took a little over a week for a prosecutor who had done specific misconduct. He was guilty of performing specific misconduct. And it took 10 days to fire him. 10 days. Not 10 months, which is what they keep telling us. It takes years to investigate, and the answer is always no. 10 days for something that they do to Black folk on a regular basis. They deny our basic rights, our civil rights, our constitutional rights, our human rights. They deny that every single day, and nobody gets published. A damn illegal alien who ain't even supposed to be on the soil, who does not have rights enshrined in the Constitution as Black people do, from the Civil Rights Act of 1866 to 1965, 66, 69, so on. And no one's protecting our rights in the state of Texas. No prosecutors are being fired for violating our rights in the state of Texas and claiming that police can violate our rights so police can commit crimes against us. People can commit crimes against us for being Black, and no prosecutors are fired for that. Now listen to this part. It is wrong to ask about a victim's immigration status. It is against our policy and it won't be tolerated, Ogg said in a statement. We treat everyone equally under the law, no matter how they came to be here. Listen here, you hamhead, wicker broom looking heifer. You're not treating Black people equally under the law. Because if you were treating us like you did this illegal alien, you'd have cleared out the whole damn prosecutor's office. There wouldn't be a damn one of them in there. Because they've been doing this stuff to us for decades and decades. There wouldn't be a single one. All he did was ask about their immigration status. You've got prosecutors ignoring evidence, burying evidence, colluding with the police, breaking laws across the damn board. It goes on to say Denholm had been with the office since January 2017 and is a retired Harris County Sheriff's deputy. He was questioning an officer who was present inside a Houston jail when Carl Bonner, an inmate suspected of drunk driving, allegedly tried pulling another inmate closer while exposing himself in a holding cell. So that was all that happened there. The inmate screamed for help and an officer told Bonner, quote, to get his hand off the complainant and to pull his pants up. When Denholm spoke with the officer, he asked about the victim's immigration status, suspecting that if he was undocumented, he wouldn't come to court to testify, according to media reports. When Denholm, the district attorney, quote, the district attorney out of nowhere says, well, is the complainant illegal? Joe Gamaldi, president of the Houston Police Officers Union, told the Washington Post on Thursday. He goes, because if he's illegal, I'm not taking the charge. Denholm's alleged actions were quickly condemned by immigration activists and law enforcement officials. Both groups demanded he be fired. Now, has anybody heard of these law enforcement officials demanding the incarceration of Amber Guyger? Were any of these immigration activists and law enforcement officials demanding the incarceration of Amber Guyger? Were they demanding the incarceration of her boyfriend, married police officer, who killed an unarmed black man also? Were any of these groups demanding that? Isn't it amazing? Nobody talks about backing the badge unless it's to victimize black people. When it's to victimize black people, all of a sudden you gotta back the badge. If you don't back the badge, it'll be anarchy, it'll be chaos, it'll be chaos in the streets, it'll be rioting, it'll be lawlessness. You gotta back the badge all the time, every time, all day, because if you don't, it will be Armageddon in the streets. And for an illegal alien, all of a sudden, law enforcement sits up here and is able to tell you that, oh, that's not, we need to defend the illegals. That alone, the fact that these same organizations that victimize black people defend illegals, that tells you what side these illegals are on. I want you to think about one other thing. When you have somebody like Roland Martin and the Urban League tell you that black folk are doing fine, have you ever heard of a black person who made a complaint and a prosecutor was fired within 10 days? Black citizens file complaints every damn day in America how their rights have been violated by prosecuting attorneys in Texas and can't get no damn justice. But a non-citizen can get it in 10 days while they tell black people, oh, we need years to investigate. And even after we investigate, oh, wasn't no crime here.
And Bud, you mentioned that you could not film us watching their reaction there with the sheriff's department as they watched that video for the first time, but you were in the room, correct?
Well, yes, and these men are professionals, and they're very stoic. They didn't show any emotion, but I tell you what, they watched every moment of that video. They watched it very intently, and then after it was over, they asked us for a copy for their internal investigation.
And also, Bud, who's advocating for this teen? He lives in a group home. Do you have any idea who's going to be helping him through this process as it just gets started?
Well, yeah, you're right. He is in a group home. I was told today that he has been abandoned by his family. He does have a lawyer. I talked to the lawyer this afternoon, and he said there's likely to be some civil action, some civil litigation somewhere down the road. That internal investigation would probably take a couple of weeks.